listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay, good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Lawrence. Thank you. Good morning, listeners and viewers. You are tuned in to the Kingston Community Radio Wednesday morning radio show, and we're broadcasting live from our studios here at 16 Lucas Avenue in Kingston, New York. 331-9255 is our call-in number, and we would love to hear from you. In the studio here with me is Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Lawrence.
So, what did we do? We had one week of winter last week, and is it spring?
Because back to spring.
You got the shorts back on. Wow.
Back to spring. I didn't even see him. Did he slide in with shorts?
Must be back to spring. I don't know.
I wore pants yesterday. I tell you, he would have had shorts on at the game on Sunday. You would have loved it, Greg. It was 85. And
was it 85
yeah,
degrees?
It was hot, man.
Nice.
It was actually, the sun was blaring down in my seat. I had to go outside for a minute. Me and Cam were boiling, man. You would have loved it.
Yeah, and then at the end of the game, you were even boiling more as a result of it.
But you know what? What do we have, 5 games left or 4? 5 games left.
You know what? At this stage of the game, I hope they lose out so we get a better draft pick.
I got one more game I'm going to in 2 weeks. They play Dallas.
Yeah.
I told my friend Roger and my friend Mike Hart that, and me and Cam are going. The other 2 games we donated the tickets to Boys and Girls Club. Larry Circusano won them.
Yes.
We gave a couple tickets to Dr. Stanberg, and we donated some other tickets to some other people. But at this point, I'm happy. It's been a long season. We went to 7 games. Enough is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at this time of the year, it's better to watch it in your living room anyway. That's what my dad always used to say.
Right.
Well, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. Well, when they're 4-8, you sit at home and watch them.
Yeah. It was the opposite. It's nothing like being down there.
Or he used to say, even if they were 8-4, we sit at home anyway, and we wait till they go to the playoffs because we got to rough it out in January. So, because you can't not go to the playoffs. So who we got on tap for today, guys?
So, who made the arrangements? Billy Murphy. Let's see. I got it here in the text. So I'm drawing a blank. I know we got Kevin Cahill at 8:00, and then just hold on 1 second so I don't.
I knew I didn't eat breakfast for a reason this morning. I knew there was. My clock just automatically.
We think we'll have one Monday night.
Every second and fourth Wednesday of the month, right?
Yeah.
So, Fred, when I texted Joe Sinagra yesterday, were you guys in a meeting together? Or was he in your office?
Yeah.
Or
No, we were together.
Thank you for that, by the way.
No problem.
I appreciate that.
Happy to do it.
Appreciate it.
We're going to be, when's that? A week from Friday,
A week
right?
from Friday, yes.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we'll do it. What did you think of Monday night?
I thought that, now you talk about a cold game. You're talking about the Bills.
Bills, yeah.
Did you watch that game, Greg? I was freezing just watching the game in my living room.
Yeah. It was definitely.
It looked. You see some of the people in the stands. I was like, "Oh my god, man!"
It actually reminded me a little bit of the Green Bay Giant game when it was really cold. The playoff game
when
10
Costello
years
got
ago.
the frostbite on his face. Poor guy.
Yep.
I wish he was still our coach.
But I thought that game was. It was obviously cold, but
the Bills.
The Patriots are the real deal again.
Yeah,
the Patriots are the real deal again.
Yeah, they are. I
They're
tell
back.
you, I'm impressed with Mac Jones. They're not like when Brady with the lightning touchdowns, but they have a good defense and they can score points when they need to.
Yeah. Yep.
So
it's I can't think of her last name. Jennifer, right? From JJ Newberry, the old JJ
Jen
Newberry?
Hicks. Jennifer Hicks.
Yes. Yes. She's joining us. She'll be calling in.
Perfect.
Great. At 7:35.
Well, I have Bob Circus. I have Sawyer Motors on the schedule. I figured either Bob would be calling in or Jennifer would.
Bob might need a break because he had a big weekend.
Yes, he did have a big weekend, a big successful.
Good. That one successful?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
good.
great.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a perfect day.
About, I would say, 4:45, I went back down to the corner of Reese, Main and Market, the Reese parking lot. And you just couldn't even get onto the sidewalk. They were spilled out onto the road. And he was giving all the toys away and the bicycles and calling the numbers.
Oh, nice.
And he's got quite a system in place so that, only one bike or one toy per child. And then I made my way down to Marabella's and got warm in there for a bit until the parade started. And once the parade started, this is the fire truck parade.
Right. I remember you guys were talking about it last week.
Yeah. And they just went all out.
Really did. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And how was it pretty cold on Sunday or was it?
No, it was a nice day.
Because when we landed on Monday, I was like, wow. They said, oh, it's 55 in Albany right now. It's like, what? 55? I was like, I don't even need to put my coat on.
No, it wasn't that bad.
A nice day.
But, of course, this time of the year, once the sun goes down, once it gets dark.
Right, then it becomes cold. And if the wind is blowing, then it becomes really cold.
But no, it wasn't that bad of a day.
Tonight it's supposed to get down into the upper 20s, so, I mean.
Tonight is?
Yes.
Which, for this time of the year, could be a lot worse.
Once we get into January. So, Greg, when do you leave to go? Is that beginning of February, end of January?
Well, I'm going to be away for, I'm going to actually miss 2 Wednesdays because when I get back, I've got a meeting up at Ithaca. But I'm going to National.
Okay.
Our STMA National in Savannah. So I won't be here the 3rd or 4th week in January. And then Jen and I leave February 11th.
Okay.
For
and then you're usually back sometime in March, right?
Yeah, March 11th.
February 11th. And you didn't get to go last year because of COVID, right?
No, we pulled the plug the last minute.
And you guys drive down every year?
No, we fly, but our van is down there.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah. Well, you'll be having a good time this year.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, I've noticed since, a lot of people live in Florida now. A lot of people have moved there from New York, from other Florida with the traffic now is nothing like I've ever seen. And I don't know if you're on the West Coast or on the East Coast.
West Coast.
I don't know what it's like on the West Coast, but my God, in Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, it is the traffic is ridiculous. And I don't mean like at rush hour. I mean all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, we took an Uber home at 1 a.m. from the beach. I mean, it took us an hour, a normal 20-minute drive took us an hour to get back to the hotel room. I was like, oh, my Lord.
Now, that whole corridor of West Palm, Lauderdale, Miami.
Yeah.
It
is.
And the West Coast, 15, 20 years ago was nowhere near like the East Coast. And it's not anymore, but it has grown. And, we've noticed over the years how traffic has increased and picked up. And, going out to a restaurant, you want to either have reservations or a lot of the restaurants in Florida, they don't take reservations. They do the call-ahead seating. and then you get on a priority list for that time.
Right.
So unless you
head seating, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that in Broward County too. There are a lot of restaurants they won't take reservations.
They won't take reservations.
They just don't take them.
You do call ahead
seating,
seating.
Down specifically down by the beach. There's so much foot traffic that they don't have to rely on reservations. They're constantly full all the time.
Yeah.
So, which kind of stinks because if you don't get there in time, then you don't get to eat at your favorite place or whatever.
So you call, usually around noontime, 1 o'clock, and you tell them a certain time, and you get on a priority list, so to speak, and then those that don't do that, that just walk in, they have to wait for the priority people to
get sat first.
Wow. There's one restaurant down there that's very, very popular, and there's times where people who have not done that have waited an hour, sometimes
to get a seat.
Sometimes more. Yeah. Because I know that happened to some people that were at the condo that we stay at, and they said, we're not going to go back there again if we have to endure that. They never had likewise, they never heard about call ahead seating. And that's, Florida's the only place that I know, and there may very well be others that I'm not aware of, other places that do this. So apparently it's not just over on the West Coast, because as Lauren said, they don't take reservations over on the East Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting.
That actually, I can see that being an effective way to manage because, especially in places that do that kind of volume, I'm sure in the wintertime, in summer you get a table anytime you want, but in the winter, whenever everybody's snowbirding, those places explode.
Yeah, and especially several of the restaurants, one in particular, the one I just mentioned, is a very popular one, has quite a bit of outdoor seating. Now, most of the time, even if it's cool or chilly, they got the heaters, so it's tolerable. But when it's unusually cold for Florida, unless it's people from the north, that there's some people in Florida when it gets down 68 degrees, they got gloves and coats and hats on, and they get adapted to that real warm weather.
And then that's it. They can't handle. So a day like today, they'd be miserable.
Yes. If they were up here, they would be miserable.
Do you notice it when you come home? Do your blood thinned?
Well, the cold. I can't take the cold like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago, I could never work with gloves on, and that's why on 2 of my fingers I got frostbite years ago. And those are the first ones that start to they'll turn white, and they'll start to really sting. I was a klutz. I was the biggest clumsy klutz in the world trying to do anything with gloves. And actually, to this day, even though I wear gloves more, they're just so bulky. Now they have these newer thermal ones that are real thin.
Yeah.
I've got a pair. I got a pair of them. So like we go to a Giants game. So even though we put the sleeve on the beer bottle, the beer can, it doesn't get my hands freezing cold.
Those gloves are handy though.
Yeah.
The mechanics style gloves. I just ruin them too quick. They're great though.
Yeah.
And they are for as thin as they are. They do give you a lot of warmth.
They do. Nothing like the heated gloves I have, though.
I use those little things, remember? I still get them. You break them up and you slip them into your gloves. They're like little packages.
Oh, the hand warmers.
Yeah, the hand warmers thing. Yeah, I use those. I got a bunch of them, like, a box of them. I still use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they work great.
Or the foot warmers. They work good also.
Yeah, they actually have socks now that I use for skiing that they get a little too warm because I'm sweating when I'm skiing a little bit, and I got to take them out of there, so I don't use the feet ones, the foot ones anymore. But the hand ones, they come in handy, man.
I saw on my niece's birthday, a couple of her friends came in and they had vests that had a little glowy logo button. It's a heater, so the vests were actually insulated and heated, and that's
cool.
It was pretty cool. and it had adjustable temps. So if you touched
I
it,
like that.
If
So if it gets too hot, you can turn it down.
You don't have one of them, and you go to Giant games in November or January
Yeah.
for the playoffs. I have one of those.
Yeah, you have one of those?
Yeah, it's not a vest; it's a jacket. It's a full jacket.
So your sleeves are heated.
Great.
And
With a
everything.
hood.
That's what I was just thinking. As he was saying, I'm like, that would be perfect for a Giant game.
With a hood.
Oh,
And
with a
there's-
hood, too.
Yeah, low, medium, and high.
Yep, I was
and
really.
on high, you get 5 hours of battery life. On medium, you get 8 hours, and low, 10 hours.
Right. So if you do go to a game, you're never really inside for more than 3 hours. So if it's really cold, you could keep it on high the whole time.
Well, yeah. But then, there's the parking lot also.
Oh, yeah, there's the parking lot.
And sometimes the parking lot can be worse than inside, because at least inside a lot of times you're protected by the wind.
Now, I don't know if you were watching the whole game the other night, Fred. During halftime, I was kind of starting to doze off because I was tired of just, flu that day. And they allow, only in December, for Bills fans, they will roll you over. You have to bring your own firewood, of course, and you can't have a big, huge rager. But you're allowed to have. They bring 55-gallon Bills, the parking, the attendants or whatever. You can have a 55-gallon, the steel drum in the parking lot with you can have a fire going.
For your tailgate?
Really? Tailgate. You just have to bring your own wood. They're not going to sell you wood.
Yeah.
You can't have a big rager and a bonfire. But if you want to stay warm.
They'll let you have.
The other night, I would imagine there were quite a few fires.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, because it looked pretty cold.
Oh, my God. Cleaning that up the next day has got to be a disaster.
Yeah. Now, do you know, and I couldn't believe this, and this is ridiculous. I don't know, but prior to COVID, my uncle and cousin used to tell me, because they live up in Rochester, that they opened the stadium. So the game was at 8 o'clock on Monday night, or 8:20, whatever. 24 hours before kickoff.
People will camp?
What? Okay, say they play a Sunday at 1 o'clock game. You're going to go there at Saturday at 1 o'clock and start tailgating? Are you even going to be
No, you're not going to get any good rest.
You're going to be out of food and everything by the time.
But these people that have, like you see them down there, they have to park along the curb.
Yeah, the big campers,
the big RVs, the big campers. I can visualize.
Well, when we used to, when Campers Barn used to rent we used to go pick the camper up on a Saturday afternoon at like 2 o'clock. My dad would plug it in to the garage. We would have to leave Kingston at like 6 o'clock to make sure we were online at 8 to get one of those curbs, and it was like a mad dash. Campers flying through the parking lot to get to a good spot.
There is some process that it has to obviously be in place. We've been at the gates, not that far back either, where we're off Patterson Plank Road.
Right, I think the same way. You go under the...
And there is campers set up, there are RVs set up. They have to get in there before 4 hours or 5 hours before game
the
time.
the gates don't open till 8 o'clock. So
somehow they get in there. So there's some mechanism, there's some process, there's some
I think they
because they're all set up. They got the grills going, and it's quite elaborate.
They need to come up with a different system for next year because there's no ticketless, paperless, whatever entry. I mean, I've only had my tickets work on my phone once or twice this year. I've had to walk up to will call I'm going to have to do it again for the Dallas game. My barcode doesn't go back and forth. It starts moving and then stops halfway through. So I called the ticket office because I'm allowed to. Their tickets are in my mother's name, but I'm allowed to call on behalf of her. I'm like, listen, my barcode stops moving. It starts as I get closer to the stadium. It starts to slow down and then it just stops.
Yeah, but are you dumping it into your ticket wallet, or are you going right off the Giants app?
Well, I have all my tickets are right on the Giants app. Usually, whoever I send the
ticket. No, you can't.
Because I don't have a Google Wallet or any of that. Everything was working fine the first two games, but for instance, when we went to that game with Nina and Tony and everybody. Tony and Leanne's ticket worked fine. Their barcode was working fine. But me and Cam and Nina and Dwayne, our tickets didn't work at all.
Well, because what happens is there's so many people on the internet, it bogs down.
Well, that's what I was thinking. That it's got to be an internet thing. Now, I don't know where you park, but where we park so close, when we want to get out, we park pretty much back by. We're in J16, so we can literally, we're like lined up with the Quest Diagnostics thing. So we want to get out and get right on Route 4 and then we take right off and go. You're in L, so you're just like a lot over from us.
Yeah.
So I think that we're so far back that we're not picking up the Wi-Fi. So I went up to the nice gentleman the week that I met Carl Banks. When I went up there, and she goes, I've never seen nothing like this before. She goes, I've seen it freeze up, I've seen it do this, I've seen it do that, but I've never seen the barcode just stop.
Wow.
So she goes, next year, what you do is you have every season ticket holder has an agent. You call your particular agent up, and you just tell them, hey, the barcodes didn't work out for me last year. I prefer paper tickets, and they can't say no.
Oh, no fooling.
Yeah, so you can get paper tickets. And plus, I like to keep them. I've been putting them in a photo album.
I know, you said that earlier.
Yeah, since I was a little kid. And thank God, though, this year I've gotten the Raiders. I've gotten 3 tickets to the game this year, so I'm going to get another one, and it's not a complete bust. But
there you go.
So is the 7:30 guest coming in or calling in?
Calling in.
Okay.
We calling in. And let's see. You got an announcement there. I've got one here, I believe, because I forgot to bring the flyer, but...
We also should mention that the first responders and Sawyer Motors are doing their toy giveaway. That one's by invite.
That is by invite. Until all the invitees are taken care of, then they'll give it away to...
They'll just open it up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so all are invited to Wreaths Across America. This is sponsored by the Sargers VFW Post 5034. The bus trip will be going to Saratoga National Cemetery to remember the fallen, honor those who served, teach our children the value of freedom by placing wreaths on grave sites. This will happen on Saturday, December 18th. It's $15 per person. The bus will be leaving from the Greco Senior Center at 10 a.m. and it will return approximately 5 p.m. We will have a cash lunch stop along the way. To purchase more wreaths, the cost is $15. Make your checks payable to VFW Post 5034, P.O. Box 152, Sargers, New York 12477, or you could contact Bob Howe directly at 845-246-8510. Don't say I should have, say I did.
And we have an ugly sweater public ice skating.
Oh, nice.
Sponsored and also to benefit the Sorgety Skating Club of Sorgety's. Happening on Sunday, December 19th from 3:15 to 4:45 p.m. Break out the ugly sweaters and join in the fun. There's going to be a visit from Santa Claus, a bake sale, 50-50 raffle, gift basket raffles, $10 admission for adults, and I imagine I believe it's $7. It doesn't list on the flyer here for students, $3 for skate rental. And again, that's Sunday, December 19th from 3:15 to 4:45 p.m. at the Kiwanis Ice Arena, 6 Small World Avenue, right in the Cantine Veterans Sports Complex. Break out those ugly sweaters and join in the fun.
Yeah. That's fun. That's the first one I heard of this year. Ugly sweater party. A couple years ago, that was overplayed, but
yeah,
it's pretty. Yeah. It's good to see it still hanging around.
So we'll see how many the variety of ugly sweaters that show up that day.
I'm sure there'll be some pretty creative ones there.
I'm sure.
That actually will probably be fairly well attended. The skating club's a sizable organization, right?
They are. They've grown in leaps and bounds, and they've really expanded too on their instructional, where now I don't recall how many certified instructors they've got, but they've expanded on them, and they'll literally take from the very beginner that never had skates on, right up to the more advanced that want to continue, and hopefully get a chance to compete in the Empire State Games, or if their expectations are high and their initiatives are there, possibly the Olympics.
Yeah, fun. When the Empire State Games are fairly around then too.
Yeah, they're usually the first, right around the end of January or the very beginning of February. It's always that time frame where I'm home back from National, but before I go to Florida. So I want to say, depending on how things fall on the calendar, the end of January, beginning of February.
I'm sure it's going to still be substantial, but prior to COVID hitting, our rink was so well represented.
Yeah,
we had young folks and athletes from all ages going up there. It was really. We gave out awards the one night. I think we gave out 80-something awards.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. You're right. There was 80 some awards, and they have literally every kind of competition from figure skating to ice hockey, speed skating. Ed Montalbano.
Ed did, he distinguished himself.
He won in the over 50 division, and he was the overall winner, period, amongst all competitors.
That's impressive.
So he got a gold in the general group, and then also in the over 50. But Ed's been a big part of the ice arena. Ed and his wife Amy, very, very big. And Amy still is involved with the skating club, not to the extent that she used to be. Linda Westland now, I believe, is the chair or the president, whatever. But quite a group.
Ed used to practice on the Sawyer Kill.
Did he?
I think he did. For whatever reason, it's sticking in my mind. I saw him out there one day.
Well, obviously he's been at it a good deal of his life.
Time, yeah.
Because he's that good.
Mm-hmm.
He's that good.
So
and when you stop to think, somebody over the age of 50, competing with the general group and winning that.
That's impressive, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite an impressive feat.
Because there's nothing like being 20.
No.
Your body could process
you still think you can do what you did at 25 or 35, but
no.
I found that out with my shoulder.
Yes. You get quick reminders on stuff like that. Good stuff.
Yes, it is good stuff, and a lot of other stuff going on, with the holidays, and a reminder to, all of our civic organizations and others that are holding events. Send your flyers over to us. You can just email them over to kcr921@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to share your event. It doesn't cost anything. It's a free means of advertising and marketing your event, and we would certainly love to do that. So keep that in mind.
Last weekend was extraordinarily busy. Kingston had their snowflakes. We did our holiday in the village, and Rhinebeck had their Sinterklaas. And my understanding is all three events went very, very well. You and I were both at Sargi's, and we could attest that went as good as it ever has. But the feedback I'm getting on the other two was very well attended too.
I think what people have endured since a year ago, March, want to get out. They want to get out, and it's some early, and I emphasize early, encouraging news with the new variant that it may not be as severe. One of the World Health Organizations came out yesterday and basically backed up what Dr. Fauci had been saying with it. However, it does spread more easily. So the whole bottom line, get your vaccine. If it's time to be booster, get your booster shot. How did you make out the day you were flying or the day before?
I made out fine. I felt a little, I had an 11:30 or whatever appointment it was. I couldn't believe, I didn't realize that they didn't open till 11. So the line was backed up almost to where the old J.C. Penney used to be. I saw 3 or 4 people online that I knew. Trisha Boughton was online, a few other people that I knew. And but everything was fine. I felt a little nauseous by the time I was getting off 209. But I took it, so I knew I was going to be taking lunch afterwards. I came home, and I laid down on the couch, and I was out for like an hour and a half. But it just knocked me out for like an hour and a half. But I woke up, I felt great. But you know what? Really, I'm still mind-boggled by it. And me and Cam were talking about this when we were in the airport over the weekend when we had a layover. I could not believe how many people were there to get their first shot. Like, I was on the booster line. Like they had J&J, Moderna, Pfizer. Yeah. There was booster lines, and then there was the first dose. The first dose line was like backed all the way out to the front. The booster people, they're like, Pfizer. The particular day that I went, Johnson & Johnson only had 2 people giving Johnson & Johnson shots. So that was going a little show. Pfizer had 13 or 14 people. Moderna had 6. But I couldn't believe how many people were there just getting their. I mean, the lady that was sitting in front of me, she's like, what are these people been sleeping for the last 2 years? Like, how do you? I mean, I know it's everyone's choice. I'm not passing judgment or.
But that's good to see.
I was just shocked. It's good to see that they're out doing it now.
It's good to see that so many people, and obviously you look at the numbers, you hear the numbers of people now that are getting vaccinated and where the percentage is going up. New York State. I mean, we're right around 90% of
92%.
92% with at least one shot.
Yeah. Now look at Florida, where 38% of the state is vaccinated. And
38. That's it.
That's it. 38%. Well, they're all trumpeteers, dude. I mean, not all of them, but most of them won't get the shot. And they have I know a few of my friends won't get it. They have.
But you also listen to the numbers of now how many people, well over 1,000, are dying a day. And that's up like 57%.
I think that's what's motivating those folks to go, though. You know a loved one that gets sick.
Well, yeah, somebody in your family gets sick. Yeah. And there was I think Jersey, where the father and the child was too young to get vaccinated. Both got sick from COVID. I don't know which variant that they had. The rest of the family got it, were vaccinated, had no symptoms. Those two ended up in the hospital, both on breathing apparatus.
Wow.
So, I mean, if that doesn't send a message, I don't know what does. We are past the bottom of the hour. So time for a quick break, and then we'll be back with Jen Hicks in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
This is Greg Chorvas, and once again, the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund is asking you to help the needy this holiday season. For the last 50 years, the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund has helped less fortunate families have a happier holiday. Look for our collection boxes at the local branches of the Ulster Federal Credit Union, Rondout Savings Bank, the Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, Ulster Savings Bank, and at the Kiwanis Ice Arena in Saugerties. Thank you very much, and have a happy and Merry Christmas.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us the first half hour. And those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We are expecting Jen Hicks
to
be calling in. I'm going to shoot her a quick text in case it fell off her calendar or something urgent came up. So we'll see what she has to say.
I think it'll be exciting to hear her perspective. For folks that grew up in Saugerties, Newberry's was a staple. We would go there. I remember going there with my mom because they used to make custom shades on the spot. And then that trend obviously expired. The mall displaced all the retail. And that building's kind of it's been underused for that period of time. But Jen bought it. It's done some incredible renovations and has set it up.
Was that right in the village? Or
right in the center of the village on Main Street. Pretty incredible. And she's gone above and beyond to restore it and make it useful again. And she's used it I've been there for a number of art events. And they were all very well attended. And but she has a vision that goes past that. And I kind of see a synergy developing, especially on Sunday. They had music in there. And Upstate Films was part of that. And Newberry's hosted the party for Upstate Films when they had their grand reopening at the Orpheum. And there's just this unique synergy that's starting to develop between the business community there and figuring out how to welcome people and to leverage the experiences we have with the car show, with the Holiday in the Village, with the other events when we shut down the village streets. But it's going to, as that evolves, it's getting stronger and stronger and more exciting, and it just creates another opportunity. So
it is
exciting to hear about her vision. She had an interesting career as well, and she's an artist herself. So hopefully she remembers to call in and we can enjoy.
One of the nice things that I always enjoy with the Sawyer Motors Car Show, years ago when we had the Jazz Festival in the village, New Year's Eve, which of course this year we're not going to be doing, but Holiday in the Village on this past Sunday, when they closed the streets down, and you got all all the restaurants are open. Some of them are serving right from the sidewalk. Yeah. It's almost like a street fair in the city.
It's great,
and to see all it's almost like a street fair in the city, and to see all the people that turned out, and that was by far, again at 4:45, that was the largest gathering of people that I've seen. Okay, at that Reese's parking lot, literally, you could not get onto the sidewalk. It was the parking lot, all of the sidewalk at Market and Main, and spilled back onto the roadway. So it was just great to see, and great to see the number of kids that received bikes and toys and gift
there's
cards.
A picture from the stage where Bob and his crew were on the stage doing the giveaways, facing back.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and it looks like a rock concert.
Yeah.
There was people everywhere. It was pretty cool. It was really neat. So congratulations to them. And I keep forgetting to mention the Kirsten House had a huge day as well. They had Santa in the barn.
That's right.
And the barn looked amazing. Marjorie and her crew did a great job.
I forgot all about that. I should have walked down.
It was awesome. I forgot. I was there fairly early, and they had planned, I forgot how many hundreds that they were expecting to do giveaways for, and it was only like 2:30 when I was leaving, and they had gone through like 80% of it. So I'm sure they ran out, and at some point, because that line was out almost to Main Street for a while. Pretty incredible. I remember we were walking up to go there, and I saw people standing by the sidewalk, and it didn't click that would be the line. I just assumed that was folks congregating and talking and visiting with each other. Then we got there, I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot of people waiting to see Santa.
That's great.
So
there was certainly a lot to do, and
it was great.
That fell right off my radar because I was there early in the day, and then I left. I just love walking, and seeing the businesses and all the activity that was going on. And then, like I said, I got back into the village, I'd say it was about 4:30 or so. And it was 20 of 5, quarter of 5 when I was at Reese's, and it just...
it was amazing.
It was.
Super fun.
And then, like you said, Jen had music going in the old Newberries, and she done a fabulous job with that building.
She really did.
Something must have came up, or it slipped off her radar, and I haven't received a text back from her.
For you especially, Post Street has become a destination in itself. There's the coffee shop there, Olson and Company.
Oh yeah, right on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that folks now will go through there to get to Stella's and Partition and Bella Luna when it's open. So I probably could count the times I was on Post Street growing up. I find myself on Post Street all the time now.
Yeah.
It's
so as you're going down, you go past Stella's.
Mm-hmm.
You go past the coffee shop, and you make a right.
Jane Street.
Oh, Jane Street.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
I
how
got
do
10
you get?
heads.
Yeah.
Jane Street's become its own destination.
Yes, Jane Street has become its own. Yes. Oh, I agree 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, because now you have the. I see. I thought you were talking the coffee shop.
I know. I'm trying
past.
to confuse you. That's also become its own little.
I know
thing.
because the number of cars that park, and of course that's kind of narrow through there, and thank God there's no parking on the opposite side, or you could not get two-way traffic through. No way.
No, there's been some discussion.
You're talking at what is it? 6 Jane, 11 Jane?
Yeah, part of that is the Newberries, the back entrance.
Yes.
So that they've, I think it's 11 Jane. I thought it was Post Street. So
and then you've got the coffee shop there,
Olson and Company.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's become kind of its own little niche destination. I think it's kind of cool. And I thought that was unique. And then a close friend of ours reminded me that there used to be a bar way back on Jane Street.
Oh, it had to go way, way back.
Yeah, Joan told me that.
Even before my time. Because I grew up right there.
Yeah, that was your hometown romp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of neat. It's probably gratifying to see it change.
So it must have been in that same building, that brick building.
I think I'm going to ask Joan again. Because she told me about that, and it floored me. Because I was like, really? And but it was quite a while ago, and she had a solid memory of it, and I trust her memory. She's
oh yes,
she's a walking history book.
Yeah,
and she could tell some really great stories.
I know Joan used to listen to us. I don't know if
she's welcome to call in and share. Yeah,
I don't know if she still does, but yes, if there's, I remember. I haven't in the recent past, but if there was anything I needed to know, it's Jimmy Gage, it's her, a select few. Carl Lizette before he passed away, Carl Sr. I don't want anybody to think Carl Jr. But I used to love listening to Carl Lizette Sr. talk about the old mountain house and the rail trail up the mountain.
Up by Poundville?
Yeah. And every year I say in the springtime, I'm gonna do it one more time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk it. Okay. This time though, because I'm gonna go from the top, walk down, and then attempt to walk back. We'll see what happens.
See how it goes.
That's a pretty steep.
Steep hike going up.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in 25, 30 years probably.
That's probably how long ago since I did it.
We did it when we had one of those special holidays from school. Kind of thing, and we walked up to the lake that way.
And both Carl and Keith Roberts, who's also passed on.
I don't remember him.
Keith lived in Palinville.
Okay.
He lived over, I forget the name of the street. If you were to leave the golf course, because he was a longtime member at Rip Van Winkle, played golf with him many, many times. As you leave Rip Van Winkle and go down to the light, you've got that horseshoe turn to start taking you back to Sorgety's.
Yep.
And then you've got the Palinville Fire Company. Right there, that roadway that goes off at an angle, you'd go in there, make a left, and he was right down there.
Wow.
So the night that the mountain house burned, he went over to the golf club, and he had just some awesome pictures. And to see the magnitude, extent of that fire from that kind of a distance, what it must have been like to be right there.
Imagine.
But he had some awesome pictures. I remember Carl had just a whole binder of pictures when the Mountain House was in its heyday. And I love that kind of stuff.
It's pretty neat.
I love history,
It's pretty neat.
Period. When we got talking about the history and some of the shops on, and the young lady called in with, we couldn't think of one of the businesses.
Yeah.
And then she mentioned the Chinese joint. And boy, that brought back
some good memories too.
Yeah.
It's really.
And I got to laugh at it. Got to laugh at everyone when I told them. I remember, no tiki, no washi, and that's that was it. I was right there in the front entrance, and I can remember the owner, how many times he would he would say that. I was real young at the time. Speaking of fires, just jumping off the subject here, how absurd and the gall. I don't know what other words I can use, especially being on the radio here. Did you hear about the individual last night, shortly after midnight, that lit the tree on fire at the Avenue of the Americas, where Fox News broadcasts from?
No, I did
and a
not.
lot of the New York Post is operated out of.
No.
You talk about a roaring fire.
The Christmas tree on fire?
Yeah.
What happened?
Someone
lit a Christmas tree on fire?
Down in the city. It was about 12:15. I caught it on the news this morning.
In the middle of the day?
No, at night.
Oh, at night.
Midnight, shortly after midnight. And he supposedly climbed a tree and lit it like a quarter of the way up or halfway up. It's a wonder he didn't get burned or killed. And, I don't know if he used any kind of an accelerant, but it was one heck of a roaring fire.
Anybody get hurt? Hopefully nobody
got hurt. Security was able to come out, and of course, once the fire started, there was an instant police presence.
Yeah, and it probably took off like that because of the.
But no, they apprehended him. They apprehended him right there as he was coming out of the tree because
But
security.
Unfortunately, with New York's stupid bail laws, he was probably released a ticket.
But you stop and think.
Somebody
could have got seriously hurt, and those flames. And there must have been quite a breeze blowing.
And how big of a tree are we talking about?
Oh, boy. That was
20 feet?
Oh, higher than that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised it was close to 40. At least 30.
That's a huge tree. That's like Rockefeller Center size tree, right?
When you see a Christmas tree burn, it's extraordinary. They get hot. They burn like a tank of gas.
Yeah, they go up quick.
They go up quick. Once those resins start flowing, they get really hot really fast. Yeah. So no one got hurt.
No one got hurt. That was the thing.
Perfect.
And they must have taken tons of greens because after where it had burned completely, there was a metal frame. Unless the metal frame, but no.
Like the one they have up in Kingston, like the one they have for the Snowflake Festival of Time. It's a frame of a Christmas tree, and they put like the stuff around it.
Yeah,
to make it look like a tree.
Yeah,
but it's not really a tree.
Right.
So, but it's wrapped with the
live greens.
Right, with the live greens. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it smells and looks exactly like one.
You would never know.
I had no idea until 2 years ago, prior to COVID, that the tree uptown that they put on North Front Street, I was like, why do they get that perfect tree every year? And Cam's like, that is a metal statue that they wrap with, garland or whatever.
Make
I was
it
like,
look
get
great.
out of here.
But, can you just imagine, especially this time of the year, what would possess an individual? But then again, nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah, right.
But when I saw that this morning, and again, I just have to question if possibly some kind of an accelerant was used because it was roaring.
Usually a spruce tree or a pine tree or a hemlock tree, even if they're like live in the ground, you light a branch of that on fire and the rest of the tree is going to go with it. So, I mean, that's, the forest fires that you see out in Colorado, Alaska, Oregon, all California, whatever, that's pretty much spruce, stuff like that. And that's those kind of trees with those.
But, you're right. I mean, I know building a campfire, like at night, you throw a limb of a pine or a spruce in, and
you're going to get some heat.
Yeah.
I usually do that when we go camping to keep the bugs away. I'll take a limb of some pine or spruce, throw it in there, it creates all that smoke, and then the mosquitoes are gone. At least for,
smart. I never heard of that.
For
That's
5 or 10
smart.
minutes.
Yeah.
They're not gone forever. So I guess.
Well, you're right about that. And actually, I don't remember what particular species it is. I think they're cedars that make up the mountains by Newburgh and all that ridge there.
Well, that's why they say birch trees are good to have in a forest, because or what is it? Yeah, because no, birch trees will light even if they're wet. That's wrong.
Well, those trees are designed to burn, and actually their seeds won't germinate unless they burn. They have to burn once to make the seed viable.
Off a cedar tree?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which tree it is, but the trees on the ridge, the Schwangunk Ridge, those trees, if you just take that seed and plant it, it won't grow. But if you burn it and plant it, it will grow.
Yeah, it will.
So those forests are designed, they've evolved to burn every so often. And we see it, a year or 2 years ago, the hill on the Beacon side
Right,
burned.
they'll do a controlled burn.
Well, it caught fire and it burned, and it took the firemen a pretty substantial effort to get it under control. But that forest,
I can never understand. Now, this probably makes sense. Where it seemed almost every year, when I was driving Patricia Smith's car down to Florida for her, you would go through the Carolinas, Georgia, and you had these smoke advisory signs and control burn.
Yep.
Where they would periodically burn these trees, and then the next year you could buy and you wouldn't even notice that it was charred. Now, obviously, the growth of the trees and the vegetation was much less, but it must get to a certain point where they do these. Now, I don't know if they still do it because it's been quite a while.
I think that's a real thing. I think the trees, the forest canopy actually hosts the habitat that all the animals and other plants rely upon. But when it gets too thick, you kind of get these dead areas underneath. And in mature wooded areas, you see that. There's not a whole lot happening. But those immature ones where the sunlight can make it through the canopy and the life is way more vibrant.
Yeah.
You'll see,
See, and I always thought that maybe because the hurricane went through and it took down a bunch of trees or what. But now that you said that, kind of makes that's probably what the primary purpose of it was.
I imagine there's something deeper to it that we don't understand because, here our ecosystems are clearly not as complex as some of the ones in warmer climates, but those forests depend on an occasional forest fire to rejuvenate.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. So.
And we have our state assemblyman, Kevin Cahill, that just came in the door with...
I'm leaving early, so I came in early.
All right.
Leaving early? Okay. So you came in early.
We came in like Christmas, so we're in pretty good shape here right now.
Yep. Got the red sweater on, and
my mouth is already full.
Boy, it doesn't take you long to dive
I'm hungry.
So.
Hey, listen, I took this one pastry. Colleen just made them. They're all fresh and hot. Everything is delicious. That muffin. Who got the muffin? Feel that? It's still warm. So she threw in an extra one because the blueberry muffin crumbled, and that's sitting in my car. But I didn't know they had the raspberry crumb cake, so that's coming in my car too.
Perfect.
I was just telling Lawrence it reminds me of a restaurant in Kingston that's no longer here called Paul and Doris, and it was Paul and Doris Seafarth, and they closed the restaurant and went on to cook in the soup kitchen. That's what they did. But when they had the restaurant open, and they passed away, unfortunately, when they had the restaurant open, Jimmy Satile and I would arrive there at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:45 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and get the raspberry crumb cake right out of the oven, and it would make the trip to Albany just the most heavenly trip in the world. I am pretty certain that for every pound of cake, there were 2 pounds of butter, 5 pounds of raspberry, and 10 pounds of crumbs.
Yum.
You're riding up and you go, this is from heaven, this food. And like I used to tease Paul all the time. I said, when are you going to give me the recipe? When are you going to give me the recipe? He said, you can have the recipe anytime, but you'll never be able to make it.
It's one of those. There's a lot of feeling.
One of those, yeah.
Kind of reminds me of, again, growing up in the village. the corner bakery at Jane. We were just talking about Jane Street. Jane and Petition. The crumb cake that they used to make there.
Well, let me just...
Of course, Lockman's with their glazed donuts.
Lockman's, yeah. Let me just urge anybody who is within the sound of my voice to get in their car, and Colleen doesn't officially open for another 5 minutes, so I think about half the crumb cake is left even before she's open, but get up there and get a piece of it.
Oh, so you have special privileges to go in the back door, huh?
Well, I call in the morning, and, you know, she's still cooking. I actually just walked past the place, and I was going to go into Party's Insurance to get breakfast, because their lights were on and Colleen's were not, and Market Basket was not. So she saw me, Kevin, I'm open. I just so she's usually there for deliveries. And actually, when I was leaving, the Boar's Head guy was there coming in. And
I'm surprised though, an establishment, especially does like the baked goods and the breakfast sandwiches. They don't open earlier.
Well, it's not like the chains where they have 15 people behind the grills and 2 people behind the counters and another one wiping it down. They have a Colleen and usually 1 or 2 other young women there, and that's it. So she gets there early, starts to cook and bake, especially, and then the customers start streaming in. Usually, until COVID hit, there was a group of people who would have reminded you of, that gallery on the Muppets, the 2 guys that sit up in the box. Mm-hmm. Well, they were there. Mm-hmm. Only there were 4 of them. And they're all friends of mine. And they would sit there in the morning, and they would solve some problems. They would solve the problems of the world. Jimmy and Nasser and Kevin and a few other people would sit there, and they would just solve the problems of the world. And as soon as one made a pronouncement, it was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pounce. The rest of the guys jump right on him. So it was always a pleasure to see. Really, really, Wayne was another one. They would go there and just, it was so fun to go in there and just talk to them. Just maybe sometimes just lob a little concept in there and just see what happens to it.
Just stir the pot a little
just
bit.
Just stir the pot, yeah. So
there's a few spots like that in Sweargreaves, but the one that sticks in my mind for some reason when I was younger, the Stewart shop that has closed and now became a delivery pizza place. They used to have a clutch like that.
Yeah.
And every morning you'd have 5 or 6 folks there, and they would be solving problems and go for.
I had to drive.
Well, that's now is all moved to Lox of Bagels, right?
It's not the same, though.
Not the same.
I used to for a short period of time. My significant other had a broken ankle, and I was driving her to work, and she worked in Westchester. So I would drive her in the morning, and then it was like crazy to think about driving home and driving back in the afternoon to pick her up. So I would just bring my computer and go to McDonald's and use their Wi-Fi, and I would sit there either in the parking lot for half the time because I felt guilty just sipping on a cup of coffee for 2 hours. But I would sometimes go inside, and there was that coffee clutch there, and I used to take my grandchildren to McDonald's in Kingston, and they had it there. So they're everywhere.
I think every place. You go in the Quick Check.
There's
8:30 in the morning.
So maybe if any of those guys are listening, they'll round up the old gang and get back there. It was fun. They haven't been back since COVID together, but I'm hoping that they get there. So
minus some of the profanity. If we throw a mic in the middle of that, that'd be a damn good radio show.
Oh, you're not kidding.
Oh,
well, actually, this show used to be at Dysing's. And we would walk into Dysing's, and Frank Meyer and Flo Hyatt would be holding court, and guests would come in, and sometimes they would have school kids come in and sing, and it was just a very festive atmosphere. But it really did feel like that. And used to be when Walter and Ray and Greg and Jeremy would come on. They were that kind of group, They were the kind of group that were so different from each other, but at the same time they had a commonality and they enjoyed each other's company. And it used to be like sometimes I could just sit here and watch the 4 of them go at each other, It
didn't hurt that Jeremy had that theatrical training and he was good at it.
Jeremy was the quiet sort of sit back, wait for the moment, and then say something profound, right? Mm-hmm. And whereas Ray would bring you his country Midwestern wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. and I won't say it about Greg, but he brought his trademark grumpiness to the microphone.
The first time I ever got invited to be a guest on the show, they were doing it from Dysing's, and Flo Hyatt is the one that actually invited me. And I remember Orville Norman there, and then you mentioned the other person.
Frank Meyer.
Frank Meyer. And that day there, it must have been near the holidays because they brought a group in, I want to say from one of the Catholic schools, children in.
Yes.
From one of the Catholic schools, and it was quite nice.
Yeah.
So we're at the top of the hour. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses who work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us for the first hour. Those just joining us, welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you. In the studio is State Assemblyman Kevin Cahill, along with Town Supervisor from Saugerties, Fred Costello.
Good morning.
Good morning again.
Good morning,
Gentlemen,
Kevin.
and happy birthday to all those people who didn't send in and therefore are not eligible.
That's right. Thank you, Kevin. That's right. We had no birthdays today, right?
We have no birthdays.
Today I'll do the birthdays.
Today I'll do the birthdays. You're like Hugh Reynolds. He won't do them either.
And well, you know why? Because it's like as a politician, you go into like a church supper and they say, we're going to have the assemblyman pull the raffle. And I was like, no, there are 200 people in this room and 199 of you are going to lose. And only one of you are going to win.
Right. I don't want to be the one pulling that
I'm sure
ticket.
there was quite a few that are celebrating birthdays today, but unfortunately nobody submitted any names.
My brother Brian had his birthday on the 30th. So
did my mom.
Happy birthday to your mom, and happy birthday to my brother. I'm sure my brother is much older. I think I'm trying to think how old Brian turned. I think Brian turned 80.
You think he turned 80?
No, Brian turned 63. But
they're actually. Are you going to pretend? I mean to interrupt, but they're going to do an announcement today at Tech City, right?
Yes, they are. I can't be there because I'm in school. I'm a lawyer, and every year I have to do continuing legal education program, and that program happens to be today, and I can't leave because it's mandatory that you do full attendance. But I will have representatives there, and I was having a discussion with somebody about this. They were complaining that one of the local reporters, was very skeptical about what's going on in Tech City. And they say, well, yeah, we've heard this before. We've been to this parade, and it never seems to get off the ground, right? And I said, everybody has a right to be skeptical. Since 1994, this time of year, 1994 was when, 93 when IBM closed, or announced their closure. And there's a reason to be skeptical. There has been promise after promise after promise about what was going to happen there, and not all of them were foolish promises or malicious promises. They were promises that were expecting wonderful things to happen, but the pieces were never put in place. This time, I think Pat Ryan and the county legislature have really put the pieces in place, and of course the folks in the town of Ulster. I think the pieces are really in place for this to work. The proposed developer is someone who has a remarkable track record of success and a real business plan to make it work. So what will become of Tech City? I guess we'll know more after 11 o'clock today. But I think this is the real deal this time, and I don't generally jump ahead of the actual event. One of the things I suggested to my friends who were doing it, I said, we're doing this with a couple of other projects. Let's stop talking about them until they actually produce. Mm-hmm. And when they produce, then the public will talk about it. Yeah. The public will talk about it themselves. They won't need us to raise it.
I don't know why I thought about it, but when you hear quarterbacks talk after a game and there's just interception during the game, they always say every interception has its own story. And as you're talking about Tech City, all the fits and starts have their own story, but there was a common theme. The ownership wasn't exactly a good partner in many ways.
Allen Ginsberg and I got acquainted very early on in his tenure. We actually met in Saugerties at the old the restaurant on 212 that's no longer there.
Rick Orlando's place.
Rick Orlando's place. Yeah. I'll tell you a story about that someday. But we met there, and I'll tell you right now. I ordered the Diablo pasta dish, and the waitress came back out, and the server came back out and said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I like hot food." She said, "It's like an 11," and I said, I can handle it. I'm good at it. So she brings it out, and I take a forkful, and I was like, if this is your 11, you got to go back to school, because this is the easiest. I said, this doesn't even taste like it's spiced. And she said, are you serious? She said, people sweat when they eat that. And I said, well, it's not. So she said, I'm bringing it back to the chef. She brings it back to the chef, and she comes back out. She said, sure enough, you were right. He gave you a dish that he did not fully spice, but he's done it now. And I could look over in the corner. I could see the chef looking out of the kitchen.
Yeah, he's going to teach you a lesson.
And I took one bite out of that thing, and I kid you not, I was lifted out of my chair. And then I said, hi, my name's Kevin Cahill. Hi, I'm Allen Ginsberg. So maybe it was portending the future, but I got hurt that day. Yeah. It wasn't 11. Yeah, but I think that he took on. I believe he came here with the right intentions.
Sincere.
I think he had encountered things along the way that he never expected. I think he was more comfortable in a different kind of business community than we have here. I think he probably was very successful in some of the more urban environments, some of the more fast-moving sort of transactional places. We're a community. We operate differently. And I don't know that he was ever comfortable in that community. I will say this, that I talked to him over the course of many years. Each time there was a possibility of something happening, and he shared in the optimism. But yeah, it was kind of a thing where you would say, well, is Allen going to let this go across the finish line? Something's going to come up. And it's entirely possible that because he had never done a project like this before, few people have, the individual who's coming in now, the group that's coming in now has, that he was not able to put all the pieces together. Listen, I wish him well. He was in the community for a long time. He provided an opportunity for kids to learn soccer in his his facilities. He housed a number of hundreds and hundreds of temporary jobs every year at the Bank of America. He kept the clock building standing for a long time, and he's not around. He can do no harm. So he's gone, and the new developers are coming in, and when they do, I think there's going to be some really, really good news, and I think that the 25 or so years, or going on almost 30 years, that we've been looking at that site wondering what's going to happen. I think the wondering will stop, and we'll start to see a diverse use for this very large and I still think valuable property.
I agree.
So
yeah, I definitely agree it's valuable. I mean, the infrastructure that supports that property alone, you know, if you're starting with a clean sheet of land to develop and you had to install all of that infrastructure, you're talking tens of millions of dollars out of the gate, and that's all in place there. And
yeah.
So we're
the railroad siding, the water system, the power that goes out there, those things are all still very important. Maybe the buildings, which were built to IBM specific, you know, no windows on offices, all the offices inside, the windows were only on corridors, and that's kind of like a very 50s and 60s industrial type affair. That might not be entirely suitable, but you know, I think something can happen there. I think good things, and let them be creative, and we'll see where it goes.
So, as far as a lot of times buildings that get abandoned, they don't get used for a period of time. You know, there can be a tendency for leaks, mold, or mildew. How the interior of the buildings, to the best of your knowledge, or?
I think it's a mixed bag, Greg. I think that there are portions of it, the portions that I have seen, there are portions where there have been leaks. There are portions where there have been there's been mold. There are portions where there have been other issues, but there are also portions that are fairly well preserved. Because don't forget, a large portion of the property has been used over the course of those years. It hasn't really been abandoned. And probably the biggest issue that our community had with Mr. Ginsburg and his development was the tearing down of certain buildings in an irresponsible way. I don't know whether it was his fault or his contractor's fault, but they put dangerous stuff into the atmosphere out there when they tore down those buildings. They were chock full of asbestos, and it wasn't properly contained. And they turned out with a hazardous waste site as a result of the way they tore down some of the buildings that were antiquated. Were they stripped out of all of their assets, like some abandoned building? I remember the candle factory. Mm-hmm. After it closed, the plumbing was gone, the electric was gone. Anything that could be sold as a commodity was disappeared. That, to the best of my knowledge, has not happened at the former IBM facility. So there's great promise. And we saw last summer with Joe Conkra and his folks turning it into a venue, which was also interesting. There's been off and on interest in the property that I think that with the appropriate developer who's prepared to spend what it takes to make it happen, who has the faith and the support of those around them, I think we're going to see some good things here. This is as good a reason for this community to be optimistic as we were pessimistic 28 years ago when IBM made their announcement that they were going to change the way we live around here. Mm-hmm. So I think we're on a good track.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Actually, when I was a senior in high school, they had this. I don't know if I'm using the right title for what was a school and community where I worked at IBM. I was done with classes at 11:06, I believe the period ended. And Mike Summers, who was my guidance counselor, was instrumental. And I worked there when I was going senior in high school and also going to Ulster. And I remember those, there were no windows at all. So, somebody said, oh, boy, it's snowing quite bad out,
Oh, it is?
You have to run to the corridor. You're right. There are no windows.
Like the casinos in Vegas, right? They don't really want you to know what's going on in the rest of the world. But when I was growing up, of course, I grew up in Kingston at the height of IBM, as not the real numbers height, because that was right before they closed, where they had 8,000 or 9,000 people working there, but the steady 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people that were working there. And I'm going to say 1 out of 5 people in my neighborhood worked at IBM, and it was always a big mystery to me. So When my kids were young and my brother-in-law was working there and he brought them to the Christmas party, I was more anxious than anyone to see the pictures because I always knew about IBM
inside,
from
yeah.
afar. So this was an insider's view. So
The local version of the North Pole.
it was, yeah. It was a really elaborate thing, and my kids would come home, and they were little babies at the time, 2, maybe 3 years old, and they would come home and they would be babbling about all the whole Christmas experience that they had, and of course a lot of pictures. So I probably still have some of those pictures, but they were good citizens in our community until they stopped being so, and we found out that they left a legacy of pollution, which so many corporate entities do. Between the two giants in New York State, I would say would be IBM and GE, and as much good as they did providing employment, they left some serious damage. IBM to the facilities, not just here, but across the state that they owned, they were less than responsible with the chemicals that they were using for transformers and for cleaning purposes and that sort of thing. And GE, of course, with PCBs and dumping it straight into the Hudson River. I mean, that is just that to me. To me, that's a crime. I think GE should go on trial for that. And I've been one of the people that have been urging the federal government not to let up on them. They did a cleanup around Fort Edward, but the second hottest spot is around here because this is where the waters are so they pool here from coming down the city and coming up from the city and down from the mountain, and we have some deep parts of the Hudson here, and embedded in that sludge at the bottom of the Hudson is a significant amount of poison that GE put in the river, and I think they should be held responsible for taking it out. It will eventually disappear, or get so. It will get so diluted that it will become relatively innocuous, but for generations to come, they're going to have to be cognizant of it and be aware of it. So that's that. So my staff forgot to tell me. They said there's no follow-up from the last show, which is untrue. So our good friend Paul called me up and last time when we were on the air, and and we discussed the connection between the bail laws and the rise in crime. And although my staff forgot to add that part, I did some research myself, and I was surprised to find out that the murder capital of the world, Chicago, has the judges in Chicago have the dangerousness tool. The very thing that we're hearing so much about here, that, you can't put somebody, you can't deny bail because of dangerousness in New York State. They have it in Chicago, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. In fact, in 64 major cities across the country, I think that's how many cities there are with over 1 million people, crime has gone up significantly, more than 20% in each one of those cities. It doesn't matter whether it's a Democratic leader or a Republican leader or a red state or a blue state, or, interestingly enough, a state that has bail reform or not. Crime has just gone up. And the only pattern, the only overlay that can exist to say this is what happened with crime is some other stress in society. When you see another stress in society, you can, as that stress increases, you will see crime increase. And in the case of COVID, it was economic stress and isolation. Those two factors together are the only common thread we can find across the country in the increase in crime. So and I am entirely optimistic that in 2022 we are going to start to hit that glide path away from COVID. I think the latest variant, the fact that it is more contagious and less powerful, is actually probably a blessing.
Yeah, from the early indications, that's some good news.
Yeah.
And just, I think it was 2 days ago, in line with what you're saying, I'm not sure which medical journal or which medical organization came out with the increased percentage of individuals with high blood pressure as a result of the stress from the pandemic.
I just get it from coming on the radio. So just to put a lid on the crime issue, there really has not been anything definitive that can be pointed to. Yes, you can pick up an anecdote where somebody who was released with no bail or low bail, or was released where they otherwise would have been incarcerated before bail reform, committed a crime, but there's no evidence that it is in any greater extent or any more severe crime than it would have been had those very same people been subjected to the old bail laws. There are a lot of other factors at work here, and we still have a lot of work to do. When somebody gets released on their own recognizance or on a affordable bail, the judges also have a whole slew of other tools that they can use. They can use electronic monitoring. They can place restrictions on the person. They can require them to report on a regular basis. They can hover over those people, and if they violate their parole from a previous crime, or if they commit or are suspected of committing a crime, they can be arrested immediately and then held in custody. So in answer to Paul's question, no, based upon everything we know so far, and of course it's too early to tell. Bail laws have only been in effect for a year and a half, about, give or take. It's too early to tell, but there's no reason to believe that this uptick in crime that the nation saw in every major city and in also non-cities is related in any way to the New York State bail law. Because if it did, I don't know how we affected Kansas. So
it's a curious thing. I think underneath all of that, though, is the temperature of debate is so high that it's influencing our thought process about everything. So we can't just look at a pile of facts and judge them for what they are. We have to look at them suspiciously and identify some underlying motive why someone would be willing to do that. And
we want an answer, Fred. That's we want an answer, and the easy answer is if this, then that. Right? That's always the easy answer. Yeah. And then there are those of us who support bail reform, and we want to say, oh no, don't touch that bail reform. Anything you say critical about it is hype, and we dismiss it out of hand. I think what we ought to do as a society is sit down and say, what do we want? We want a safe and just society. And how do we get there? Within the confines of our Constitution, within the social norms that we've developed over the course of years, and what do we do about it when somebody breaches those rules? And how do we deal with it? And what is the underlying cause? I would take crime, some housing issues, some poverty issues, and a couple of other things that we deal with as sort of the burdens of society. And I would look to two factors, the economy and the absence of mental health services. If we improve mental health services and access to those services, if we did something to assure that even those who are impoverished are not put at risk for their life, safety, and health, I think we would have a better society. And I think that, not a handout, but a safety net underneath folks to make sure that they can be taken care of. And, this is the time of year where WGHQ and KCR become famous for reaching out to the community and helping others. And charity is not just something that we do charitably. It's something from our heart where we try to think about everybody else in society. And if no matter what your religious affiliation or your belief in the religious aspects of this season, this is the time of year where all of us start to think about the community again, and we start to think about others who are more in need. So let's keep that in mind too.
Mm-hmm. And that's been very, very evident, not just with KCR, but other events that Fred and I had talked about earlier, that just this past weekend that happened in Sorgeties, Woodstock, Rhinebeck. It's great to see, because there are a lot of needy families, a lot of needy children, and it brings joy when you're able to be part of it, and then also to see other individuals in the community. And we always single out Bob Circusano. It's Bob Circusano. It's a lot of others. Now, of course, I'm talking about Sorgeties because I'm prejudice towards Sorgeties. I live in Sorgeties. But, you as you mentioned, the event over in Rhinebeck.
And I'm not exaggerating, they were 5 deep for the entire run of the parade. It was so crowded. It was so crowded. And in addition to that, I don't know what the organization is that sponsors it, but there is a festival of lights taking place on the Dutchess County Fairgrounds.
I heard good things about that.
It was fun. I mean, we went through with a 2-year-old, and we bundled them up. We put the top down, and we drove along. And I was halfway through before I realized that the lights were going to the music. And in fact, this morning I turned on the radio to listen to you guys when I got in the car, and I was still tuned in to Dutchess County Fairground Radio. but it was fun.
It's a drive-through?
It's a drive-through, yeah. So it was warm enough that night that we could just bundle him up with blankets and a hoodie, and he complained about being too confined until we put the top down. Then he was like, "Yeah, this is cool."
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And then from there we went to Sinterklaas, and boy, oh boy, it was just so crowded. I had him on my shoulders for a while, but I'm too old for that, And it was funny. He was not gripping while I was holding him, but anytime I tried to lift him off, he would give me a chokehold with his thighs,
feeling like you put yourself in a noose.
Yeah. So it was amazing. And then on Friday, the Snowflake Festival, I was walking against the crowd at the Snowflake Festival. I happened to have been at Stella's, and I looked out the window, and there were fire jugglers on the street. And they were just teeming with people. I drove, because I was late, to Uptown Kingston from my house, and I'm sort of embarrassed to announce that because it's only 3 blocks away. But I drove because I said, I got to get there. Somebody's waiting for me. And I could not find a parking space. I drove back home and parked my car, and then I walked up anyway. And what was really interesting is when I was driving past this building, there were people who were just like me. They were circling, looking for parking. This was to get to Uptown Kingston. They were parking way over here. And I saw a very distinctive SUV. And he had been making the loops. And when I walked back from my house, he finally found a parking space. But it was a wonderful feeling. The merchants really did it upright, and and like you said, Sorgeties was the same way. And I went to the Orpheum about 2 weeks ago, and we had gone to the Dutch the day that the governor came. We went there and had lunch before the governor came, so we did it again, and the Dutch was jammed in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. It was just filled to the brim with people, and the Orpheum I think is still working out the bugs, but that was fun.
There's a good energy there, though. They're going to figure it out, and it's going to be successful.
Yeah. I'm not too crazy about the idea that the candy counter and the ticket counter are the same thing, because I had my tickets and I just wanted to go in the theater, and I had to wait. I had to wait for people ordering popcorn with extra butter, and no, is that vegan butter? Or wait a second, hold on. And it was, okay, folks.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Well, it's probably not the case all the time. Maybe it's just during certain.
They'll get through that too.
Yeah, they'll get through it. They'll figure it out.
There's so many opportunities for apps so you get your tickets in advance nowadays that it would eliminate that need. There is a kind of one of the things that the Thornton family maintained when they were managing that property is they had Peter in the booth out front.
The booth, yeah. Well, that was the same as Uncle Tony at the Rosendale Theater. He was in the booth. It was like, okay, I'm at the Rosendale now.
Pretty neat. And there's a little bit of nostalgia, but that's separated architecturally where you bought your tickets and where you bought your snacks. Yeah.
But so when we helped get the grants for the not-for-profit, the collective, to take over the Rosendale Theater, I said I want to impose 2 conditions. I said, you have to keep Uncle Tony, and you have to keep the 50-cent candy machine. They didn't keep their word on either one.
Well, everything has its time.
That's right. I agree. I think they did it as long as they could. I think the candy machine is actually there, but it's just a museum piece right now. So,
they're Greg. That's someone else we have to have on. The folks from the Orpheum. Would be a great guest, and I think
I had a brief conversation after their grand opening. We went down to Newberry's, but you're right.
Yeah, they have I think the right vision going forward.
It's been an engine in Rhinebeck for years. Upstate Films, they revived and helped the Tinker Street Cinema survive for another decade after it was probably not going to be around. And I see the same energy happening in Saugerties with the Orpheum right now. I think it's different than when it's a commercial theater. You know, it's a commercial theater. There's still kind of a disconnect from the community. But when it's a not-for-profit and it's a, volunteers are very much involved and a small clique of people that are running it, who are also active in the community, are involved. It really feels like part of it. And you don't just go to the movies. Like, it's closed now, but we used to go to Liberty Cafe and Upstate Films. Now, now I say we went to the Dutch and the Orpheum, and it's kind of like you don't do one thing, you do a bunch. So
right,
very important.
We're at the bottom of the hour. Time for a break, and we'll be back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, my name is Jackie Lovezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support the Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
A powerful community bank is one that has leaders that are involved in their community. At Rondout Savings Bank, they invest in the success of our community by working side by side with local people and local businesses. When you choose to bank Rondout, you are part of a bank that is dedicated to the future of your success and the success of your community. Rondout Savings welcomes you to open an account today and discover what it means to be part of a powerful community bank, one that knows you by name. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and our community, with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park, also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us this morning. Those just joining us for the last half hour, welcome. State Assemblyman Kevin Cahill is in the studio here, along with Fred Costello, Supervisor at Town of Saugerties.
Good morning.
And we'd love to hear from you. 331-9255 is that call-in number.
I was so grateful to hear other people announce Omicron, because I was reading it for a week. And I was like, is it Omicron? Is it? I wasn't sure how you say it, but when I heard other people say it, it was
Omicron.
Yeah. So it's an interesting variant that I think when we first heard about it, there was this sense that we had early on from COVID that somehow or another we could prevent it from ever entering the state, but that was disabused very quickly. But it's still dangerous, as you were talking in the first hour, to people who are not inoculated, who don't have a vaccination. Still dangerous to people with other underlying health conditions. So I hope that people are still careful around the holidays.
Absolutely.
We were when we gathered in Albany Monday and Tuesday of this week, and we were fully masked and fully socially distanced and exercising precautions. So,
we've got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Well, good morning. You know, Kevin, when you pass bills, especially critical ones like we discussed the last time you were on, those bills should include that every time you do, after a year, you're going to have to examine it, and they should be written in the bill that we will re-examine it to see if it has been harmful or if it has been useful.
Paul, that's not actually the way the legal system works in New York State or in most of
make that part of the bill.
Most of America.
The other thing I want to mention to you.
Well,
is that
before we get to that, before we get to that, Paul, let me try to address the first point, because I love our dialogues and I think they're important, but I want to address the first point. That's not the way it works. The way it works is that the legislature passes law, the governor signs or vetoes the law, and then it becomes the law, and then it's up to the courts to interpret the law. And I think what we've seen here is confusion over the court's interpretation of the law, not anything to do with the execution or the carrying out of the law. What I thought about today, based upon our previous conversation and some circumstances that have occurred in our community, is maybe what we need to do, based upon what we've seen in the news around the state, is to mandate that our court system fully educate the judges and the lawyers who are involved in those court systems as to what the law actually says, because there still seems to be some confusion and disagreement about that. But generally speaking, once a law is passed, it's up to society to deal with it. If society determines that it was a bad idea, they put pressure on the legislature to change it. But we can't start making laws that are temporary because we haven't had the 12-month review. And with that, I'm going to give you back the floor.
Okay. The other issue is you had discussed earlier about IBM and who's responsible for cleaning up the damage that's done. In Highland, years ago, the worst site for dumping things that were so toxic was IBM on Riverside Road. Mm-hmm. The town fathers met with the IBM people. They were wined and dined in New York, and they said, well, we'll just tell them they could just have to close it. My brother, who was in charge of water and sewer, stepped in, and he says, no way. IBM is going to be forced to clean the whole dump up because it had polluted all the water lines and all the water and sewer, mainly the water that was taken from the residents of Riverside Road. He forced IBM clean the whole thing up and then bring water and sewer, water lines all the way up 9W to Riverside Road and then all the way down to Riverside Road. So they would have clean water. IBM had to do all of that, so that when we had, he stepped in, and that's all it takes. But when we have cowardly or paid-off government that allows IBM to get away with what they did in that, and who pays the penalty for that? It's we, the people. So what we need to do is to make sure that when we make decisions, that everything is covered, and that people are acting to get the jobs done in a meaningful way. And just not let off the big businesses like IBM get away with the garbage that they placed in our community.
You know, Paul, it doesn't. To me, it's not even a function of whether you're a big business. It's a function of being a good neighbor, no matter who you are. I know in Saugerties you had an issue with an individual who was doing things like, I guess he was illegally dumping and a few other things. We all have an obligation to be a good neighbor, and no one is exempt, especially those nameless, faceless corporations that kind of come in, profiteer, and then leave. In the case of IBM in the site in Kingston, and in the case of General Electric, we have Superfund laws in the state and in the federal government that say if you pollute, you're responsible forever for cleaning it up. My biggest issue with the cleanup plan at IBM several years ago was that it was a 300-year cleanup plan. So that meant in 300 years, they claimed that site would be clean. Number one, how do you have accountability for that when you're talking about 7 or 8 generations away from today? Nobody alive today would be alive then. And number two, why is it okay for them to take an eternity to clean something up when there are mechanisms and methodologies to do it sooner? And probably the most important thing we can do when it comes to pollution is have stricter laws to prevent it in the first place. How did they get away with it in the first place? Why wasn't somebody watching them when they were dumping that stuff in the water in Highland or in the town of Ulster? Why wasn't that monitored and prevented at the time? And that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that happens. I think we'll have a better opportunity after this fall. There'll be a bond act on the ballot that will allow municipalities to invest in their water systems, in particular the monitoring systems, to assure that they stay clean in the first instance. If the public decides that they're going to support that bond act, we'll have some resources around available to us to prevent it from happening in the first place. And that is far less expensive and far less dangerous than cleaning up afterwards.
But then also hold those that are responsible for polluting to go and have to pay for the cleanups. And that too often is just let go, and the public has to pay the price. And the same thing that we're going to be paying for the clean water, which everyone's in favor of. And for good environmental laws, very much important. But then there should be held accountable those big corporations that were responsible for creating the problems.
Is this your Christmas present to me, Paul? Agreeing with me?
Isn't it nice?
It is. It feels good. It's like a different kind of suit. It's like I went to a tailor and got a jacket instead of just buying it off the rack.
Well, that's all right. You know, as long as you have your sweater on, you keep them warm.
Yes, I am.
Warm by getting the things done that we feel the public needs. Well, you have a great day.
You too, and happy holidays to you. In case I don't talk to you between now and Christmas.
You family.
Thanks for your call. Have an awesome day.
That was refreshing. Wow.
I'm
my day is
unsettled.
made.
I'm unsettled myself. You guys never get along.
No, we always get along, but we always get along by taking the opposite point of view on subjects. And today I think we're in 100% agreement on everything Paul was talking about with corporate responsibility for the pollution that they bring, and it's been a subject that I've given far too much attention to. I wish I didn't have to give it as much, but it's been such a pervasive problem that we've had to deal with it. The responsibility that we owe to each other is far greater than the responsibility any corporation owes to its shareholders or its investors. If you're a part of a community, you owe that community the obligation to be a good neighbor, and that's, I think, at the core of what Paul was talking about. If somebody does pollute, they should be held accountable for it. But again, I would stand by the proposition that if we can prevent it in the first place, that's an even better concept.
It's those legacy issues, though, just seem to linger and stay for a long time. I know we're experiencing so PFAS chemicals have only come to light over the past decade.
Yes.
And there's significant evidence, and we learned a lot of hard lessons in Washington Lake and a couple towns up north. So the state has been proactive, and they have gone out and they've inventoried landfills, especially landfills that may have residual evidence of those types of chemicals. And sure enough, the Saugerties landfill is one of the ones that tested hot. And now we have residents who have been having their water regularly monitored for many decades and found out recently that these brand new emergent toxins are actually in the water.
And they weren't detectable before now because they weren't looking for them.
Correct, yeah. So
we've got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. How's everybody doing up there today?
Good, George. Good morning.
Hey, Kevin, I got a question for you. Why does it take so long for the poll workers who work the polls, like the 10 days early voting and on Election Day, which was November 2nd, to get paid? Like, they're now talking there, the poll workers is maybe you'll get their checks by around December the 17th.
Paul, I would recommend, George, I would recommend that you raise that question when you have a county legislator on, or occasionally, I guess, John Quigley and Ashley Dittis show up here at the microphones, and they may be better equipped to answer it. I can't answer why Ulster County pays the way they do, because I don't work for Ulster County government anymore.
Because it'll be three county pay cycles since Election Day and stuff, and they've been in a hurt for poll workers the past couple of years, and maybe if they would treat them like regular citizens instead of second or third class citizens when it comes to getting them paid would be a lot better because, hey, some of those people count on that money to get their Christmas shopping and stuff
Absolutely.
done, too.
Let me backtrack a little bit here. If you want to call the office today after 9 o'clock, and this goes for any listener who has an issue, and it doesn't matter whether it's state or not, our number is 338-9610. I'll repeat that number in a minute. We will have somebody reach out and find out what exactly is the reason and what can be done to accelerate those payments, because right now we have a hard time recruiting people to work on elections.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And if word gets out that you don't get paid till after Christmas, which, by the way, I'd rather, because that's when all my bills come due.
Yeah, but some people could use the cash to do the Christmas shopping ahead of time. But no, hey, that's what I like about you, Kevin. If there's a problem, you'll put people on a job to get it done and stuff. And I really wish you a lot of luck in what may be an upcoming primary for you and everything. Because hey, we know you and stuff, and we definitely don't want the other ones to get in because they'll take this date so far left it won't matter. But Kevin, thank you for the job you do, and you, your family, and everybody else have a very Merry Christmas and a very safe and happy New Year.
Thank you, and you too, George. And again, the number for our office for anybody who has an issue, and I suspect they'll be hearing from George in about 15 or 20 minutes, is 338-9610. They'll take your call, they'll take some notes, and hopefully they'll get on it and have you an answer as quickly as they can. So we have been trying to wrap up as many unemployment cases as possible. They are still, there's a few that are very persistent, don't want to go away. But we've been at this for now getting on 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
And, we've resolved a lot of them. Our office has done a terrific job in resolving almost all of the ones that came through the door. But there still remains a couple. We have one or two where the people are waiting for their payment that they didn't get. We have some other complicating issues there. And now we're involved in some of the housing aid programs as well. And we had a staffer attend a meeting last week on one of the newer programs. So don't hesitate to call us, especially this time of year when you get frustrated and you hit the wall and you say, gee, I don't know who to call, what to do. Pass that frustration on to us. We'll help work through it. That's what we do. So.
Those are challenging. And you do spend a significant amount of time on the phone.
Yes.
Thank God the volume has significantly gone down.
What I said to my staff and what I say to them pretty regularly is anytime we encounter a problem that is persistent or pervasive and we solve it, we've developed a path for the future. And it's actually to our benefit. So if somebody calls us up and they say, hey, we're having problems with this and we're able to fix it, then maybe we can fix it for the next person, or maybe we will have fixed the system so that the problem doesn't occur to somebody else. And that's really important. We did that in the pandemic early on. We did a whole series of frequently asked questions. And the idea behind releasing these frequently asked questions was oftentimes, if you don't have an answer to that question, that's when you get into the maelstrom of not being able to solve your problem. So we publish these FAQs with the answers. Here's the question, here's the answer, and oftentimes that's when we I have to go. Oftentimes that's when people were able to solve their own problem. I just realized I have to go because I have to register.
Lawrence, if that's Jen, keep her on the line because Assemblyman Cahill has to leave.
Forgot all about that. So, gentlemen, I probably will see you between now and the holidays, but in case I don't, I wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And Lawrence, what's the Christmas fund up to?
Well, I've been stuffing envelopes, but the checks are starting to roll in. We're starting to get a lot of them in from the pledges. I just got another $250 from the, believe it or not, Kingston Police Bevelin Association. Kingston PBA sent $250 yesterday. So I would say we're somewhere around 73,000, but I haven't counted it all up yet, but we're doing real good. But right now, me and my mom are making sure all the gift cards get out by Friday. Right now, we're in a mad dash to stuff envelopes. But we have 11 minutes left. Jen, are you on the phone with us?
I am on the phone. Hello, good morning.
Hi, Jen.
Welcome, Jen. How are you? It's Fred.
Hi, Fred. How are you?
Very good. Nice to hear from you.
So I just welcoming the day, and I'm sorry I'm late, but
That's all right.
No sweat.
There.
No sweat.
Yeah. Okay.
We're happy to have you. So, Jim, I don't know if you were listening earlier, but we were talking about some of the synergies that are developing between the Orpheum and the restaurant community and Newberry's, and some of the effort you've done there to repurpose that as a usable space. I know I've been there for a number of events, and folks who attended Holiday in the Village saw live music there this past Sunday.
Yeah, right.
Which was nice, which was very, very nice.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff planned. As you know, and probably everybody else knows, you've got the permit sticker for renovations in the window for a very long time, because we've had some issues with just the building itself hasn't been kept up over the many, many, many years. So we've got leaks, and we redid the wiring, redid the heating. We put in a new floor and fixed up the back area. So it's been a process, and obviously with COVID, everything is slower than it would have been trying to get materials and contractors out there. But it's happening, and it's really great. It's beautiful in there, and we're going to do an artisan market December 18th, 19th. The third time in a row, which that's also very exciting. So we'll have 22 vendors this year, and they're all local. They're all local, like beautiful artisan craftsmen with jewelers, ceramic people. We've got wool is back this year from Greene County Wool. What else do we have? We've got some card making art, and just lots of great stuff. Olson and Company is going to be a cafe in the back, so you could actually come and get a cup of cocoa, walk around. So it'll be a nice day. Yeah. I
was after the grand opening. We went down, my Jennifer and I, to the after show party that they had, reception at your place, and I was quite impressed. I hadn't been in there since it was Newberry's, and I was growing up in the village, and it's great to see the revitalization, what you have done, and then also everything that you got planned. And by the way, if you've got a flyer or some information that you could email to me, we would put it in the folder, and even the guests on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday would announce that, and we would certainly announce it again next Wednesday, along with any upcoming events that you may be having. Just keep that in mind. It's a good way for us to give you some free advertising, free marketing. That's part of what we're about here.
Great, will do. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we're just going to keep moving forward. We're over the winter we have to finish the final push for the renovations. The windows, unfortunately, we have new windows coming. We've got new awning coming, but with the supply chain, they're telling me now the windows will not be in until April. So,
it's with everything. But I will say this: your Christmas display in the windows looks absolutely awesome.
Thank you! Yay!
Yeah, it does. I know the windows. The windows have been great. It's
especially after dark. Once it gets dark, it's obviously Christmas lighting. Once it gets dark, is more amplified, but it's a beautiful display.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I really wanted to do something that was for diversity and representing all the kids and cultures in Saugerties, which are a lot, actually, and to just make it for the kids. Grinch. Everybody loves the Grinch. So
yes.
Had to put him in there.
Yeah, how could you not?
And then also I just shout out to 11 Jane Street. We've got a full season planned for next year. Colin Chase is the show that's up now. Beautiful work. Please come over to the gallery. 11 Jane Street Art Center, which is around the corner on Jane Street. And then we close in December after Colin's show, and then we're booked solid through 2022, 2023, except we have a call for art that's out now. And so anybody who wants to apply, just go to our website, which is www.11janestreet, street is spelled out, .com. So it's 11janestreet.com. And you'll see the call for art and, read all the instructions, and you can apply. So we have a slot open 6 weeks in April, May. So,
wow, that's great. You're booked out that far.
Yeah.
Jen, what inspired you to do that? I mean, obviously the open space.
They're all local artists. They're I don't think we've got one from anywhere except the Hudson Valley. That's true. A couple years ago, we had somebody from New Orleans, and then we had somebody from Boston. But everybody's Hudson Valley through 2023. So, yeah.
That's exciting. And then, so your draw is obviously not just local, though. It's a regional, if not national, draw for folks to come there and experience the gallery.
Yeah, the thing that is important for people to understand when they apply is that it's a very unusual gallery because there are two sections of the gallery. So the front part is for 2D work, which is drawing and painting. All the work is sellable. The artists get a commission. It's kind of a standard gallery. But the back part is designed for installation art, which means it's more of a immersive experience. Mm-hmm. So it could be sound, it could be some kind of lecture, it could be a performance, it could be an installation. So the artists who apply have to be able to do both, and that's unusual. And so the people that are applying have a chance to experiment and try something new, which is really cool. And that's unusual for most galleries won't let you do that.
And listening to you about the folks that you have brought in that have been there, that are scheduled to come, obviously that is a huge benefit back into the community, as I like to call it, the positive economic domino effect back into the community and even Ulster County.
Absolutely, absolutely, because people come specifically to see 11 Jane Street, then they shop, they have lunch, you know, and then it feeds back into the community. And plus, the thing that I'm really excited about is we're getting more kids coming in. And when I first opened, people were a little nervous. They're like, oh, art, I don't understand art, I'm not going to come in. And now people are starting to come in and say, oh, I didn't know this was here. I didn't know I could come in. And I'm like, yeah, it's free. You can come in. You can spend as much time here as you want to. It's not like a museum where you have to pay anything. You can just come and hang out and talk to the artist and learn something, and it's fun.
That's great to hear. That is great to hear, especially with the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's one thing about the installations, which is also wonderful, is that the kids get an experience that it's unique to kids because they're so in awe of everything. So you put them in a room with like interesting shadows and lights, and they have the best questions too. Like, you know, obviously kids have these questions that adults are afraid to ask, and that helps everybody. Like, oh yeah, I never thought of that. Huh.
Good. Yeah, I can sense your energy. It's this is exciting for you, and but what motivated you to pick that spot? I know the open space is obviously appealing, but it was a monumental task to get that building back to a usable space.
Yeah. I have to admit that I was completely naive when I dove into this. Totally naive. I'm an artist, and I've lived and worked in beautiful buildings like this for my entire life. I never tried to renovate one. So when I started, I thought, oh, yeah, I'll just have my studio in here, and you know, that's the end of it. But when I started to do even the tiniest bit of renovation, I realized it needed everything. It needed new heat, new wiring. You know, there was rotted floor. Half the windows were gone. There were animals living in the basement. It kind of goes on like that. I contacted Scott Dutton, who I know as a reputation of a phenomenal architect, because I knew I couldn't do this without having a great architect behind me. And so that's how we started. So yeah, chipped away at it, took 3 years.
Good for you. Congratulations, because you're getting close to the end now, and we can see the fruits of all that effort and labor, and it's going to be a tremendous resource. And I like, this is a selfish component as a community leader, this central location kind of opportunity for people to show off and share the talent that we have in Saugerties and more broadly in the Hudson Valley, because I think oddly it's a little bit underlooked observed, under-recognized, and under-celebrated. So the more opportunities like a venue like this we have to really get people the opportunity to have that lens on it, the more successful it will be.
Jen, we're going to have to get you back on because we are out of time. It was actually perfect timing when you called in because State Assemblyman Kevin Cahill had to leave early today because he's in law school. So it was great that you were able to join us for 10 minutes, but we'll be back in touch because we'd love to have you on for a full half hour. And thank you for calling in, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, bye, everybody.
Have a great day. Thank you, Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties. Thank you, Lawrence Maxwell. And most importantly, thank you, listeners and viewers. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place.